we're starting uh, on the second woe. Just a little summary of what we did last week was we ended up studying about the first woe. And the first woe is part of the end of the fifth trumpet, right? And the first woe starts in 1299, and that is what Josiah Litch actually wrote. And he quoted that from the book of Edward Gibbon, right? And Edward Gibbon had his sources, and when we read Edward Gibbon's book, we realize the sources came from ancient history from like George Pachymeres, and then we understood that there were times that he connected it with synchronisms, which is certain dates and certain dates of the month has to be on certain years, right? And synchronisms and also astronomical events, like the Halley's Comet and when the moon is actually a blood moon and all that. And that proves that the July that he was talking about was not July 1302, but it was actually July of 1299. All right. Okay. And it ended.
I thought Josiah Litch on the second woe.
Yeah, but Josiah Litch all the way from the first woe. He understood that. Okay. So Josiah Litch actually was the one that connected the first woe with the second woe, and is back to back. So the way he actually was able to understand the end of the second woe is just by adding 150 years plus 391 years and 15 days, right? If you know the beginning of the first woe, then obviously you can understand the end of the second woe because they're both connected. So you just add 150 plus 391 is 541 years and 15 days, right? So, okay. All right, so we'll start on the second woe now. Okay. All right. Yeah. This is live on the internet now. Okay. Are we okay, RC? Sounds okay? Oh, okay. Why don't you fix it? All right. The second woe is Revelation. We'll find it in Revelation 9, verse 12 and 13. Okay. Down a little bit, RC. Okay. Revelation 9. Let me try to get this out of the way. That's kind of distracting. All right, Revelation. Okay, Revelation 9, verse 12 and 13. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. Right? And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God. Okay, so one woe is past, the first woe is past, and there come two more woes hereafter. Right? And then the sixth angel sounded. So the second woe is associated with the sixth angel sounding. So from here, Josiah Litch understood that the beginning of the second woe is also the beginning of the sixth angel sounding, right? And that's how he's the first one that actually figured this out. And I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God. All right? What does that mean? The voice comes from the four horns of the golden altar. Right. So it is the golden altar. Which altar is this?
The 2 pipes.
No. No, no. Yeah, this is the altar of incense. This is the altar of incense, which is before God. It's in the front of the throne. Where is the throne? Yeah, it's the where the two breads are, right? The showbread, right? So is this in the most holy place? No, it's in the holy place. So this happens during the dispensation of the holy place, right? It happens before 1840. It has to happen before 1844. So right there, it already tells you when this happens. This happens before 1844, right? It happens after AD 31, between AD 31 and AD 1844, right? Okay. Well, the first woe was to continue from the rise of Mohammedanism. Oh, you know what? I have to make this smaller because it's actually blocking. Maybe I can make myself smaller. All right, there you go. Okay. The first woe was to continue from the rise of Mohammedanism until the end of the 5 months, which is 150 years, right? So from July 27, 1299, 150 years will be 1449, right? Then the first woe was to end. So the first woe ends in 1449. And the second is to begin. So the second woe starts here. We'll see that a little bit later. And when the sixth angel sounded, it was commanded to take off the restraints which has been imposed on the nation, by which they were restricted to the work of tormenting men. Right here, they are restricted. They are being restrained only to torment. They can only torment. They can't kill. They want to kill, but they can't kill. So they're actually being restrained. So here they are being restrained. In this time period, during the first woe, they're being restrained, right? Islam is actually being restrained, right? Okay. And their commission was enlarged so as to permit them to slay the third part of men. This command came from the four horns of the golden altar, all right? Okay. All right. We continue. That's basically saying what is going to happen here in Revelation 9:14-15. Saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels, right? Loosen the four angels, which are bound in the great river Euphrates. So they are somewhere in the vicinity of the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. That's what they're talking about. The third part of men is actually the Greek portion of the empire, the Greek portion, right? The eastern part, the one that they're attacking. They're not attacking the whole Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire. No, they're only attacking the Greek portion. That's why it's the third part, right? And then they are going to attack, and they are going to be let loose for how long? An hour, a day, a month, and a year. Okay. That's right. So a year is 360 plus 30, 390. For a day is 1, so 391, and an hour. How do you calculate an hour? An hour is 1/24th of a day. So 1/24th which is 1/24th of a year. So 1/24th of a year is half a month. A month is 30, so half a month is 15 days. So in total, 391 years and 15 days. Okay, you got that? Right? The hardest part is an hour. An hour is 1/24th of a day, correct? An hour is how many? 1/24th of, you got it, kids? Right.
But then a day is a year, so it's 1/24th of a year.
So it's 1/24th of a year. So 1/24th of a year is actually half of a month. So half of a month is 15 days, because one prophetic month is 30 days, right? Right. So you got that? All right. Can you do it over again?
Can you write
But
down?
yeah, you know what? I wish I had. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna get the device for me to actually write. All right. Right. I'm gonna get. Well, we actually have that device, but I can't find it. You know, the one that. Yeah, to write. Right. So this is a year is 360 plus 30 plus 1 plus 15 days. So 391 and 15 days. Yeah. I'm going to get that little device. Anyway, okay. So they are going to kill a third part of men for 391 days because they are loosened. So who are the 4 angels that are loosed? Okay, this comes from Uriah Smith. The 4 angels, these were the 4 principal sultans of which the Ottoman Empire was composed, located in the country watered by the great river Euphrates. There's 260 sultans were situated at Aleppo, Iconium, Damascus, and Baghdad. That's right now where Iraq and Syria is, right? Because Aleppo and Damascus is in Syria. I don't know where Iconium is now. But anyway, Baghdad, we know where that is. That's in Iraq. Previously, they had been restrained, but God commanded and they were loosed. All right, this is a review. In 1449, John Palaeologus, the Greek emperor, obviously he's a Catholic, right? He's a Catholic emperor of the Byzantine Empire, right? He died. He had no children to inherit his throne, so he had 2 brothers. One is called Demetrius, and the other one is Constantine. And they wanted to both become emperors. Demetrius sided with the Catholic Church. So Constantine, who's he going to side with? Well, who's the enemy at that time? It was the Muslims. So he went with the Muslims, but he would not venture to ascend the throne without the consent of Amurath, which is Murad II, the Turkish Sultan. He therefore sent ambassadors to ask his consent and obtain it before he presumed to call himself sovereign. Let this historical fact be carefully examined in connection with the prediction given above. This was not a violent assault. Okay, let me see this. Let me go back. Oh, all right. Hold on. This is a little too big. People cannot read this. Okay, there you go. All right. Let this historical fact be carefully examined in connection with the prediction given above. This was not a violent assault, all right? It was not a violent assault made on the Greeks by which their empire was overthrown and their independence taken away, but simply a voluntary surrender of that independence into the hands of the Turks. So they gave up their sovereignty. Because when your enemy can dictate to you what you can and cannot do, means you gave up your sovereignty. You're no longer a sovereign ruler. Yeah. The authority and supremacy of the Turkish power was acknowledged when Constantine virtually said, "I cannot reign unless you permit." All right? Okay, so that's what it means. Okay. The 4 angels were loosed for an hour, a day, a month, and a year to slay a third part of men. This period during the Ottoman supremacy amounts to 391 years and 15 days. Thus, a prophetic year is 360 prophetic days, 360 literal years. A prophetic month, 30 prophetic days, is 30 literal years. One prophetic day is 1 literal year, and an hour or a 24th part of a prophetic day would be a 24th part of a literal year, or 15 days, right? The whole amounting to 391 years and 15 days, right? Okay, we did that already, right? So now we understand. We've done that. Okay, so they were loosed for that time period, but that time period has to end. So what happens when it ends? Okay, what happens when it ends? They were let loose. So at the end, what do they have to be done? They have to be restrained. All right. And the first woe, they were restrained during that time, and then in the second woe, the beginning of second woe, they were let loose. And the end of the second woe, they're going to be restrained again. How? Okay, that's what we need to find out. How? So here we go. This is the beginning of the second woe. 1449, 391 years and 15 days, they were let loose until the end of the second woe. And obviously here we already, it's written down that it was August 11, 1840, right? So how do you get that? Is by adding 391 and 15 plus 150, starting on July 27, 1299. 1299, right? Okay. Okay, so how it...
So it started from July 27, not 1449.
Right, yeah. Because at July 27, 1449, nothing really prophetically happened at that time. It was a general time period that they were giving up their powers. But it was a process. So you don't have an actual event at that time. So when you actually go and read all that their understanding is, it became very clear that Josiah Litch found August 11, 1840 by combining both of them. Nobody actually did that before. And that was the reason why he actually got that date, August 11.
The woes, not the trumpets that he got it.
No, the woes. Woe number 1 plus woe number 2, and they were consecutive. So now you can add it. But if there was a gap in between, then you can't add it. You have to know the period of gap. But there's no gap. So then you can add it.
So, because he didn't add from the beginning of the fifth trumpet.
No. Yeah,
So it was
no.
just the woes.
The woes, the first woe plus the second woe, then he can add it. Okay, but although the 4 angels were thus loosed by the voluntary submission of the Greeks, yet another doom awaited the seat of the empire. Amurath, remember Amurath is the one that actually says, okay, you can rule, right? Amurath, the sultan to whom the submission of Constantine the 8th, that's Constantine Dracosis, right? The 13th was made. Oh, the 13th, that's right. And by whose permission he resigned in Constantinople, soon after died. So Amurath died, okay? Amurath was happy with that he can just restrain them. But what about the son? Now, his son came up in the empire in 1451, right? His name is Muhammad II. Now, he has a lot higher ambitions. He set his heart on securing Constantinople as the seat of his empire. Now he wants to conquer Constantinople. Before, his father was just happy that, they are actually just submitting to them. But so there's a progression now. You see there's a progression of hostilities, all right? Yeah. He accordingly made preparations for besieging and taking that city. The siege commenced on the 6th of April, 1453, and ended in the capture of the city and the death of the last of the Constantines on the 16th day of the month following. So it's the May of 1453. The eastern city of the Caesars became the seat of the Ottoman Empire. Now, Constantine now is the seat of the Ottoman Empire. The arms and mode of warfare which were used in the siege in which Constantinople was to be overthrown and held in subjection were, as we shall see, distinctly noticed by the Revelator. And how they actually captured Constantinople is already foretold by John in in Revelation. All right, how it's actually being how it actually falls, how the walls of Constantinople fell. Right. So there's in 1453, the thing to remember is the walls of Constantinople fell. All right. Okay. I'm going to say that it's just a clue because that is actually something that some other walls are going to have to fall also. All right? Yeah. Okay. All right, so there you go. Those are the walls of Constantinople. It's quite amazing because those walls never fell for thousands of years, right? For 1,000-something years, it never fell. It was attacked by so many enemies only until the Muslims attacked it. And they attacked it with a big cannon. And that cannon still exists even now.
Because they were the one who introduced
It never fell.
the
Constantinople was built by Constantine in what? But so many enemies attacked it for years and years and years, and it never fell until the Muslims attacked it. Right.
Aren't they the one who introduced the gunpowder?
Ah, yeah. It was because of gunpowder.
It was the Chinese.
The Chinese who actually, yeah.
Use it in warfare.
But we'll get to it. I actually had to go find it because it's very interesting. Well, anyway, for me. Okay, so in 1453, we have a what? A dispensation change. It changes now from the Byzantine to Ottoman now. That's a dispensation change, okay? 1453. Yeah. All right, okay. Okay, now we go to Revelation 9:16. Oh, and by the way, we have a summary of all this in your, we already gave you the summary, right? In the eSword, right? Yeah, that's the highlights, right? The highlights are right there. Okay, Revelation 9:16. And the number of the army of horsemen were 200,000. What is 200,000? 200 million. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200 million. According to the Bible. What does that mean? Is that literal or spiritual? And I heard the number of them. Ooh, wow. Yeah, they were like locusts. That's right. You can't even count. Right. It's got to be spiritual. All right. Innumerable hordes of horses, and them that sat on them. Gibbon thus describes the first invasion of the Roman territories by the Turks. The myriads of Turkish horse overspread a frontier of 600 miles. 600 miles full of horses, from Taurus to Erzurum, and the blood of 130,000 Christians was a grateful sacrifice to the Arabian prophet. Ooh. Whether the language is designed to convey the idea of any definite number or not, the reader must judge. Some suppose 200,000 twice told is meant, and following some historians, they find that number of Turkish warriors in the siege of Constantinople. Some think 200 million to mean all the Turkish warriors during the 391 years and 261 days of their triumph over the Greeks. Nothing can be affirmed on the point, and it is nothing at all essential. Oh, that's true. Yeah. It just means there's a lot. It swarms like locusts, okay? All right. Okay, Revelation 9:17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, jacinth, and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Okay. So what does this mean? Okay. Yeah, it's their uniform. The first part of this description may have reference to the appearance of these horsemen. Fire represents a color standing for red. Red, they have this red color. And being a frequent term of expression. Jacinth or hyacinth for blue. And brimstone for yellow. All right. And these colors greatly predominated in the dress of these warriors, so that the description according to this view would be accurately met in the Turkish uniform, which was composed largely of red, blue, and yellow. Yeah, this guy is wearing yellow, I guess, over here. Yeah, they're brown. Okay. And the heads of the horses were in appearance as the heads of lions, to denote their strength, courage, and fierceness. While the last part of the verse undoubtedly has reference to the use of gunpowder and firearms. Fire, smoke, and brimstone, right? Which have then recently introduced, invented by the Chinese, obviously. As the Turks discharged their firearms on horseback, right? It would appear to the distant beholder that the fire, smoke, and brimstone issued out of the horse's mouth, as illustrated in the accompanying plate, right? So when they have portable firearms now. It's portable now. They can carry it, their firearms, their cannons, their little cannons. They can be shot while they're riding their horses. And if you look from far away, it's just the horses are breathing fire. See that? Anyway, this actually is from the chart, right? Yeah, that's the chart. And it's exactly right in front of the second wall. Okay, so it's as if the horses are breathing fire. It was to the fire and smoke and the sulfur. Sulfur is the brimstone. To the artillery and firearms of Muhammad. And now this was written by Edward Bishop Elliot in Horae Apocalypticae, all right? That the killing of the third part of men, the capture of Constantinople, and by consequence of destruction of Greek Empire was owing. 1100 years and more had now elapsed since their foundation by Constantine, right? 1100 years. Constantine built Constantinople. For 1100 years, the walls stood, but it did not stand to gunpowder until gunpowder was invented. In the course of them, Goths, Huns, Avars, Persians, Bulgarians, Saracens, Russians, and indeed the Ottoman Turks themselves had made their hostile assaults and laid siege against it, but the fortifications were impregnable by them. It stood for 1100 years. Constantinople survived, and with it the Greek Empire. Hence the anxiety of the Sultan Muhammad. Muhammad says, oh, I have to conquer Muhammad II. You know, he was really ambitious. I really want to conquer Constantinople, to find that which would remove the obstacle. Canst thou cast a cannon? Was his question to the founder of cannon that deserted to him. The founder of the cannon deserted to his side, and a size sufficient to batter down the wall of Constantinople. Then the foundry was established in Adrianople. Adrianople is in Hungary. The cannon cast, the artillery prepared, and the siege began. All right? And this is that cannon. It still survives today. This is huge.
This is the real thing, though.
This is the real thing.
This is the real thing.
It's still, it's actually, it's portable because they can actually put this together, they screw it. So they take, half of the cannon, this cannon is this whole thing. And they can unscrew it and they can transport it to the battle site. It's a huge cannon. It's still there.
Where's that?
I think somewhere in Vienna or something, but it's somewhere. They still have this cannon. You can still go and see it in a museum, right? I can't remember whether it's in Vienna or not. I don't remember, but you can still go see it. The great Turkish bombard, later called the Dardanelles. This is called the Dardanelles gun. Right. Yeah, so they actually put the ball of metal in the front here, and the gunpowder in the back, and they light the back of it, obviously, and then it just explodes and the thing, and it weighs 16 tons. This thing weighs 16 tons, and is used to hurl 1,500 pounds of projectiles. It is made by the Hungarian founder, Urban. All right, it is amazing. The Dardanelles gun, Dardanelles, Dardanelles gun. It's still, you can go see it. I mean, a person stands up and this is huge, 16 tons, and horses had to take that to the battle. Horror Apocalyptica. This is a book that was written by Edward Bishop Elliot. So when the pioneers are quoting, Bishop, and quoting Elliot, this is it. They're quoting Horror Apocalyptica. So this is already known by the Protestants way back then. The First and Second World, they already know it. Yeah, this is not.
Oh, that's in the U.S.
This is in the U.S.
Yeah. Dismantled Dardanelles gun at Fort Nelson, Hampshire.
Oh.
Overlooking Portsmouth.
Oh wow.
Hampshire.
Oh, there's several of those, and you can actually go see it. Yeah.
This really shows that the men and women in the 1800s, the Adventists, that they really studied.
Oh yeah.
They weren't just because they weren't scholars, but they were intelligent people.
That's right. Right. And to be able to study like this, can you just sit in a pew, and get this kind of study? You have to go find it yourself, and then it's already available. Everybody studied this already way back in the 1800s.
Well, and I've read that the reading level of the people back in the 1800s was like at a 12th grade level for those who did read, and ours has been dumbed down to about 4th.
Oh boy.
Well, but I mean, you read the Federalist Papers and all that. Who can,
The designers.
they understood it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the ones, are they, like their ethnicity at this point, are they still very much like Asian?
Well, they're Arabs. Right, they're Arabs. Yeah, because there's Turkish, Arabs. They're Arabs.
All Muslim.
Yeah, they're all Muslim. And they were able to use gunpowder.
But like,
And
isn't that
they-
from China?
Yeah, but they use technology. They were able to advance technology, and you realize that that at this time the Europe was in the Dark Ages. They did not even know where the bubonic plague came from. In those days, they did not know where. How are we dying of bubonic plague? They don't know.
They don't know about germs.
When they actually just read the Bible. You read the Bible and it tells you where the plague comes from. It's from the the rats. The Philistines knew
Yeah.
that the plague comes from rats. They were such in dark ages. They didn't have the Bible. If they read the Bible, they said, "Oh, there you go. The plague comes from the rats." They were in dark ages. So that's why the Muslims were technologically much more advanced than them.
You read in history.
Like Attila related to Attila.
Well, Attila came from the Mongols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they intermarried.
I feel like they intermarried.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. In preparation for it. So this is what happens. In preparation for it, he gives the history of the recent invention of gunpowder, mixture of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. All right. And it is the foundry of the canon of Adrianople. In the progress of the siege itself, describes how the volleys of lances of arrows were accompanied with smoke and sound, and the fire of musketry and cannons. See, muskets. They use muskets. Muskets is actually cannons, little cannons on horseback, they can carry. This was the first time they actually did this in warfare. And this is how Constantinople fell, right? Okay. The order of the Turkish artillery was pointed. Anyway, they actually, the fortifications which had stood for ages against hostile violence were dismantled on all sides by the Ottoman cannon, made breaches open, and near the gate of St. Romanus, 4 towers leveled with the ground. How as from their lines, the galleys and the bridge, the Ottoman artillery thundered on all sides. Ooh, it does, man, people have never seen anything like this. And now they're being, like these cannons are just, people were, wow, imagine in those days how they must have felt. The Greeks and the Turks were involved in a cloud of smoke, which could only be dispelled by the final deliverance or destruction of the Roman Empire, and how the besiegers at length, rushing through the breaches, Constantinople was irretrievably subdued, her empire subverted, and her religion trampled in the dust by the Muslim conquerors. Yeah. So the Muslims actually came in and were used to be the scourge of the apostate religion. Yeah. Okay. Revelation 9:18 and 19. By these 3 were the third part of men killed, by fire, smoke, and brimstone, which issued out of their mouth. And their power was in their mouth, and their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads. And in their tail is their sting, and their sting is their prophet. The prophet always stays in the background, and they're what? And they go fight in the front, right? He's the spiritual leader. Their spiritual leader is in the back, right? This is how they started. Obviously, in the Arabian Peninsula would be, where would the Arabian Peninsula be? Oh, it would be right here, right? Right, they're attacking. Okay, they spread all over, and then they attacked here. They came all the way. This is where they spread, right? How their religion is spread by their power. It's not by the book. It's by their power. Their power by fire and sword, right? So this is when you understand Islam. Islam spreads by fire and sword, right? By the jihad. This is their jihad. Well, that's what they say. But you actually have to see their history.
Exactly.
Right. It does not match. With their leader behind them. Right. It's by fire and sword. Right. You really have to learn history to know exactly. Okay. All right. So when does it end? But when will this power be overthrown? According to the calculations already made. Now this is, okay, Josiah Litch, he wrote this in 1838. Right. See that? 1838, Josiah Litch, in the probability of the second coming of Christ, about 1830. You can download this book. It's actually on EGW Writings. It was written in 1838, right? When will this power be overthrown? According to the calculations already made, that the 5 months ended in 1449, the hour 15 days, the 391 and 15, right? In all, right? 391 and 15 will end in 80, will end in 1840, sometime in the month of August. So 2 years beforehand, he said it will end sometime, right? He's being a little vague, he's not that 100% sure yet, he doesn't want to put it right on the nail, right? Hit it right, the nail on the head. The prophecy is the most remarkable and definite. Oh, he says it's remarkable and definite, but he doesn't nail it. Even descending to the days of any in the Bible relating to these great events. It is as singular as the record of time when the empire rose. See, singular. He uses the word of Edward Gibbon, singular, right? This is his first prediction, right? Remember his first prediction? It was in 1838, 2 years ahead of time. It will end sometime, he says sometime in the month of August, all right? Okay, so how did he get it? By adding those, right? He added. So this was the, yeah. He added the first woe, which he knew from Edward Gibbon, and Edward Gibbon knew from Pachymeres, all right? It was July 27, 1299, okay? And then from this, the first woe, because the first woe is connected to the second woe, and this ends at 1449. This is when the emperor gave way and gave his power to the sultans, right? And now the sultans are let loose here, okay? So to know the end of this, you just add this plus this, and you will know it ends at 1840, okay? All right. Okay, so now let's look at his second prediction. His second prediction, and I was able to get this, this is very easy, obviously. Go to the Adventist Archives and download the Signs of the Times from June 1, 1840, all right? In there is an advertisement, right? This advertisement is actually the advertisement for his book. He advertises his book in 1840, in June of 1840. He advertises his book, and it's called Christ's Second Coming, about 1843, right? He advertises his book. And when you actually publish that book, you have it printed. He actually had to write it before it was printed, correct? So when you actually go into that book, you will find that that book has an introduction of it, and he dates that introduction in May of 1840. So May 10 of 1840. So in May of 1840, this is what he wrote. Now, I actually could not find that actual book that was published in 1840. I found the 1841 edition of it, all right? If the time for commencing the periods was at the time of the first onset of the Ottomans upon the Greek, July 27, 1299, then the whole period, right? The whole period, the first and the second plus together, the whole period will end in August 1840. Now he's a little bit more specific. He didn't say sometime. He says it will end in. He's a little bit more. What is he doing? He's fine-tuning it. He's fine-tuning it, right? This is his second, okay? This is his second.
I want to comment on the Signs of the Times and the subtitle.
Yeah.
Relating to the coming of the second
Right.
coming of Christ, which they don't do that in the current times.
Right, no, they don't do that, right? They just take the first part. To them, this is just too long. We have to, well, anyway. Because this is June 1, 1840. This is essentially the only official publication of the Millerites. They had several publications. Some are kind of small, but this is the one. And the main editor is Joshua Himes, right? Joshua Himes. Okay, so you see his second prediction, all right? He gets a little bit more specific. Now you will see his third prediction. It's in the Signs of the Times also in August 1, 1840. August 1, 1840 is 10 days. 10 days before, right? 10 days before. It is kind of small here. I'm going to, you can, all right. All right, the Greek emperor died in that year and left his throne to his brother. But although it was a time of peace in the empire before that brother dared ascend the throne of Constantinople and reign, he sent his ambassadors to Anareth. His spelling is a little off. Amurath, the Turkish sultan, and requested or obtained his permission to reign, okay, and was then proclaimed emperor of Greece. This voluntarily did he acknowledge, and his independence was gone, and that the Greek empire only existed by permission of his deadly foe. The Turkish nations were therefore loosed by divine command. The time during which they were to continue their conquest was an hour 15, 1 year, 1 month, and amount to 391 15 days. Allowing the first period, 150 years, have been exactly fulfilled before Diakosis. This is another misspelling. It's actually Dracosis. Ascended the throne by permission of the Turks, and that the 391 15 commenced at the close of the first period. It will end in the 11th of August, 1840, when the Ottoman power in Constantinople may be expected to be broken. And this, I believe, will be found to be the case. So now he's very specific. It will end in 10 days from now, right? Because this is August 1, 1840. He's predicting in 10 days from now, it will end. So this is his third prediction. So he's fine-tuning it, right? All right. Okay. So his first prediction, sometime in August 1840, right? His second prediction, it will end in August 1840. And his third prediction, it will end in the 11th of August 1840, right? That's him, Josiah Litch. All right. Okay, what does this mean? Why do we make such a big deal about this? All right, because it actually doesn't mean something for us. And we're going to see why. Yeah. Because we're going to do some predictions ourselves too. Yeah, we're going to see it. It's line upon line, and you're going to know when. Okay, this is now Josiah Litch. He then explained what happened. So did it actually happen that they had to give up their power on August 11? Okay, where's your proof now that they actually did that? All right. According to Josiah Litch, and he published this in 1843. When did Mohammedan independence in Constantinople end? For several years previous to 1840, the Sultan had been embroiled in a war with Mehmet Ali, Pasha of Egypt. So Constantinople, the Sultan, was fighting against Egypt. Now, Egypt is actually under the under them, under the Ottoman Empire. So Egypt is actually subject to them, but they're fighting. Yeah, Egypt wants to be independent. Okay, why? The Pasha of Egypt is actually, his name is Muhammad Ali, Mehmet Ali, but Muhammad Ali. In 1838, there was a threatening of war between the Sultan and his Egyptian vassal, right? Between the Sultan and Muhammad Ali. Had he not been restrained by the influence of the foreign ambassadors, right? This is, in 1839, hostilities were again commenced and were prosecuted until, in a general battle between the armies of the Sultan and Mehmet, the Sultan's army were entirely cut up and destroyed. Wow. So Egypt actually destroyed the fleet of the Sultan, right? Because the Sultan now, the empire, the Ottoman Empire, is becoming very weak. And now Egypt is actually stronger than the Ottoman Empire. Okay. So completely had the Sultan's fleet had been reduced that when hostilities commenced in August, he had only 2 first-rate and 3 frigates, as he had said, remains of the once powerful Turkish fleet. He only had a couple of ships left. This fleet Mehmet positively refused to give up and return to the Sultan, and declared if the powers attempted to take it from him, he would burn it. All right, so this was causing a big problem now, because it's upsetting the balance of power in the Middle East. All right, and in this posture, affairs stood when in 1840, England, Russia, Austria, and Prussia, 4 powers, interposed and determined on a settlement of the difficulty, and it was evident, if let alone, Mehmet would soon become master of the Sultan's throne. They did not want the situation in the Middle East to be disrupted. They wanted status quo, all right? So the four Western countries colluded together and says we want everything to remain the same. We don't want Egypt to take over the Ottoman Empire. All right. Prussia is Austria. Prussia and Germany. Yeah, Prussia is Germany and Austria. Now Austria is by they've been cut up so many times, but Prussia is basically Germany and yeah. Okay. All right. Now this is the article. This is the article. All right. Okay. It's a kind of small. Yeah. But actually, I can actually make it bigger in the final. On the internet here, I can make it bigger. Okay. Make it bigger. They can see it. They can see this over it. It's not made bigger here. Okay, but I'm going to read it, okay? By the French steamer on the 24th, we have advices from Egypt to the 16th. Okay, well, you can actually read it. But essentially what happened is they went on a ship. On that ship, on that ship, the representatives of the Western powers, right, gave orders to the Egyptian representative that you now have to obey what we tell you, that you cannot continue to attack, right? And that letter was actually given on August 11, 1840. And from that time on, the Egyptians, they did not continue to attack, right? So they were restrained. So the four powers now was given the power to restrain Egypt, right?
Of course, they thought it was their power.
Right, yeah. But it was, so what happened? Ottoman Empire gave up his supremacy to the four Western powers, right? To restrain Egypt, because Egypt was trying to attack them. All right. All right. So, okay, let me just return this back to the size so they can see this. Now this article was quoted by the Morning Chronicle here, London, Friday, September 18, 1840, was quoted by Josiah Litch in 1843. See, he says, see, here's the proof that this actually happened. They gave up their power. Now the problem is that in those days, you just don't have that piece of, you don't have a picture of it. So Leroy Froome, I already told you the story. Leroy Froome, he said, I have gone to the Library of Congress and I looked for this newspaper and to actually try to find whether this newspaper article actually exists. And he says, I cannot find it. So what is he saying? He's trying to discredit Josiah Litch and Uriah Smith, who quoted this newspaper article, right? And then A.T. Jones had gone to England, but when he returned there, he wished he could have gotten a copy of the newspaper, but he didn't, right? And we know what happened to A.T. Jones. And also, and this fact for them is trying to shed a negative light on Josiah Litch and Uriah Smith. But now, these days, it's very easy for us to actually find this. It's not difficult. Yeah. I found it in an archive.
It was in England.
Yeah, in England. All their newspapers in England from 1800, 1700, you can actually go there. You pay a little fee and you just download it.
And Froome was in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and he wrote a book, Movement to Destiny, or
Right.
Destiny. And that's probably when he discredited
Yeah, because everybody's starting to discredit the pioneers. Yeah, they says, oh, we can't find those what? Because if you're going to discredit this prophecy, where are you going to discredit it? At the beginning of the, those dates. You're going to discredit those dates, right? Because if you don't have those dates, you don't have the prophecy.
Right, and the pioneers have died
Yeah,
already.
then they've died. All right.
If they want to discredit and how they reconcile 390 days in the Bible.
They say it's not important anymore. Yeah, they said it's not an important. We really don't. It doesn't mean anything. It's not important anymore.
We don't need it.
We don't need it. It's not important now.
We don't need to know it.
Yeah, it's not important now. Yeah, there's nothing really happened on that date. What happened on that date? Where's the proof? Where's that newspaper article? We can't find that newspaper article.
So that means they doubted God's word.
That's what. Yeah, they don't think it's any important anymore. That's terrible. Yeah, and then now it's very easy for us to find it, and there it is. I actually have a copy of it. Yeah. All right. Great controversy. So this is Ellen White. Ellen White in GC 334. In the year 1840, another remarkable fulfillment of prophecy excited widespread interest. 2 years before, right, in 1838, Josiah Litch, a leading minister, had predicted the fall of the Ottoman Empire, specifying not only the year, but the very day, right? He actually specified the very day 10 days ahead of time, all right? And the Turkish government would surrender its independence on the 11th day of August 1840. And now people actually say, well, the Turkish government, they're still there. The Ottoman Empire is there. What? The point of the prophecy is that the Turkish government will surrender its independence. It's not that it's going to disappear. And that's what they say. Oh, it's still there. So this prophecy is null and void because the Ottoman Empire is still there.
The very thing that they caused Constantine to do as emperor, submitting his independence
Mhm.
to them,
Mhm.
they now are surrendering their independence
Exactly.
to those four powers.
That's what the beginning has to be from the end. The same thing happened. And there's four powers. The four sultans, they now have the power to kill. And now the four powers that they were killing now restrain them, right? And this became a wonderful impetus given to the Advent movement. This gave power. So this prophecy, the 1840 prophecy, became the empowerment of the first angel's message. All right.
And that's when the year-day principle was really
Because the year-day principle was vindicated at that time. And they're attacking the year-day principle too.
Wow.
You read how they're attacking. They're gonna attack the year-day principle. Everything they're attacking.
They don't want
They don't wanna.
anything
No.
Yeah.
in Revelation.
Everything will be what? Everything is gonna be attacked. This is why we need to understand this, because otherwise they're attacking everything. We don't know how to defend it. All right. So now I'm going to include something that this is a wall. Now we understand that in 1453 the wall of Constantinople fell. All right. There has to be some walls that fell in 1844 also. There's some walls that fell, okay? What wall fell? All right, there's an Edict of Toleration of 1844. This is quite amazing. I never knew about this. But, you can read about it. But this Edict of Toleration is when the European governments told the Muslims that you cannot kill your citizen because they become heretics and they give up their Muslim faith and they switch to Christianity. You are not allowed to do that, right? I'm a different, I can actually tell somebody of another religion, of another country, to dictate them what they can and cannot do to them, right? because this was the what happened was there was one of the Muslim youths decided he was going to become Christian, and they killed him. That's actually part of the law, right? So now they're under European powers. In those days, now they don't have any power anymore. So the European power says, no, you can't do that. That's inhumane. That's barbaric. You can't do that. So they said, okay, you're going to have an edict of toleration. And this edict of toleration is amazingly passed on March 21, 1844. What is March 21, 1844?
The first disappointment.
It's actually Miller's disappointment. Yeah, April 19, well, that was the first disappointment. March 21, 1844 is actually the Miller's disappointment. When he says, oh, you know what, this has to be the first day of the first month. But he was using what? He was using the vernal equinox. That was then when they found out it was not the vernal equinox that they were using. Now they changed it to the Abib, the barley, Keret reckoning. Then they found out it's actually April 19, right? But this is amazingly was first. This was on March 21, 1844. And what is the significance of this? Why is this a wall? Because this was the wall that separated the Islams and the infidels. Because the infidels is now broken down. And because of this law, the Jews can start coming back and going back to Palestine. Because now they respected the infidels.
Who are they considered infidels?
Anybody who's not Muslim.
Anybody who's not Muslim.
Anybody that doesn't believe in the prophet.
Yeah. Because this was actually, this is like a wall now, that now the Muslims actually can tolerate the infidels. And now they are letting this is, because of this law, the Jewish state was able to be rebuilt in Israel. This is the Edict of Tolerance. There's a lot of Edict of Tolerance you can go to Wikipedia and find it all. There's a whole bunch of them. But there's another wall that you find, this is very, very interesting. In 1844, there's another wall. Yeah. On May 24, Samuel Morse transmitted the first message on the United States experimental telegraph line from Washington to Baltimore. And then what was the first thing that was ever transmitted on the Morse code? It's a biblical, yeah, it's actually a biblical, it's a Bible verse. What hath God wrought? It was actually Balaam's prophecy. What hath God wrought? I couldn't believe it. And this is another wall that was broken down. What wall is this? This is the wall of communication. It's broken down in 1844. So when you say, okay, well, there's in Constantinople in 1453, the literal walls fell down. In 1844, there were some spiritual walls. There were actually, walls broken down. Okay? All right. Now we're going to go into Wahhabi Muslim. What has Wahhabi Muslim have anything to do with anything? All right. The Wahhabism is a religious movement of the branch of Sunni Islam. One of the leaders used to call himself Salafi, and it is very orthodox, ultra-conservative, and extremist. It teaches Muslims to return to the fundamental Islam teachings of pure monotheistic worship, Tawhid. Even today, this sect has 4 names: Salafi, Wahhabi, Najdi, and Al-Hadith. Although today they prefer to call themselves Salafi. All right, so you see these are sects, but they are Wahhabi Muslims, very, very strict. Wahhabi Muslims were followers of Muhammad Abdul bin Abdul Wahhab, present in the 18th century in Saudi Arabia, whereas Sunni Muslims are followers of the Prophet Muhammad and his companions. They strictly follow one of the four scholars of thoughts or madhabs or fiqh or Islamic jurisprudence. The Wahhabis would only believe in the literal meaning of the Quran interpreted by their medieval theologians, and Muslims cannot deviate from the Sharia law. To spread Islam is through jihad, is through the sword, where the blood of all who do not believe in Wahhabi doctrine, including apostate Muslims, are not saved. So they believe in jihad, and they believe in violence in spreading their gospel.
So if they're a branch of the Sunni.
Right.
Do they believe in the Sunnah?
Yeah, they believe in the Sunnah, but it has to be literal.
Literal.
You cannot have like interpretation of the Sunnah. No, it has to be literal. All right.
So this is where ISIS come from.
Yeah, this is basically where. Because this Wahhabi Muslim is the one that, okay, I'm going to continue, okay? Sunni Muslim believe in the intercession from prophets and angels and mysticism or Sufism, whereas Wahhabis call them as deviants and wrongful innovations. You cannot have all these, intercessors, and that you cannot use beads and all these other. That's that's actually contamination from the Christians, something like that.
Wahhabis do not observe.
They are apostate Muslims, okay. Wahhabis do not observe annual Sufi festivals, events, and the birthday of Prophet Muhammad. Ooh. Sunni Muslims wear charms and believe in healing powers and visiting tombs and shrines of saints. These acts, according to the Wahhabism, considered as evolved theology, jurisprudence, and traditions, categorize them as kafir. Kafir means what? Kafir, heathen. So even the Muslims, you are heathen if you actually believe in these things. Kafir, yes, in Indonesian. It becomes an Indonesian word too. Kafir means heathen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a drink in a health food store called Hafid. And it was,
Like citrus drink.
no, it had, growth in it.
Wow. And thus worthy to be killed. So they actually are supposed to kill their own fellow Muslims.
Yeah, they're very intrusive.
Their processions ceased, their women and children abused.
Yeah.
Ooh. This is very, very,
Yeah.
and this became very prominent in Egypt.
Yeah.
During the time that Egypt became strong and wanted to conquer. During the time of the second woe. Yeah, when they were loosed. And this is why the four powers of the Western powers, they look at this and go, oh, no. We don't want any of this extreme Muslim to come up. We want it the way it is, all right? We want the status quo. We don't want this extremist Muslim coming up. Does this sound familiar? Huh? Does this sound familiar? So the Western powers don't want this extreme Muslim coming out and becoming the predominant Muslim teaching in the world. Is this being repeated? This is why we need to understand the woes, the fifth and sixth woe, because it's being repeated now. Supporters call it pure Islam, a conservative reform movement that does not deviate from Sharia law in any way. Opponents call it simplistic theology that deconstructs evolved theology and jurisprudence and fosters intolerance, which is used for power-sharing purposes.
So it sounds like
Al-Qaeda.
they've got some Islam that want to go back to the.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then there's the others that are going forward.
Yeah, we want to be evolved theology. You're strict, you're too what? Yeah, absolutely. It's parallel. Wow. Okay. So this is happened way back then and continues even until now. All right? This is the all right. So let's see. The first woe is Arab Islam attacks Rome, right? Right. The Byzantine Empire. It is swiftly without warning. We've done this before. Why it's worth doing it again. And a leader behind the scenes, right? There's always a leader behind the scenes. Okay. The second woe is that Islam attacks Rome again. There are 4 angels attack and then are restrained. And they attack with portable explosives, right? And an ultra-conservative Muslim is behind the scenes, right? And when you add this first woe and the second woe, you will find the third woe, right? So that's triple application, right? The first woe, the characteristics of first woe, and add to the characteristics of the second woe will give you the characteristics of the third woe. All right. So it is the 4 angels are let loose to attack the Western powers. And then now the 4 Western powers have to restrain Islam again at the end of the second woe, right? Okay. All right. Because why? They have to restrain Islam because an ultra-conservative branch of Islam is threatening to spread jihad. Right?
God says, not yet.
Yeah. So this is why. Is it causing a distraction? So God's people can be sealed. All right. We're coming. All right. So now we see. This is the 5th trumpet. Okay. First woe is part of the 5th trumpet starting in July 27, 1299. All right. It's end in 1449. The second woe and the 6th trumpet starts, goes for 391 and 15, all the way to August 1840. But the 6th trumpet does not end. It continues until the 7th trumpet starts. And then the 7th trumpet starts, we know when it starts because it starts at the judgment of the dead and all this kind of things, right? That's for the next trumpet. So it continues. But the second woe ends right here, right?
This is helpful because it shows that like the first woe isn't the 5th trumpet, but
Yeah,
it's the first woe.
that's right.
And the second woe is just a part of the 6th trumpet, but it's not interchangeable.
That's right. It's not. It's part of it. So the 6th trumpet is a trumpet, but the woe is the attack on you. Is the attack on you because it's the attack on the apostate church. Apostate church. All right. Okay. Oh no, we're not done yet. That is not done yet. Oh yeah, we're not done yet. What are we? Okay. No, we're all right. Now we have. This is the summary. This is where the summary comes in. Okay. This is where you actually see where it comes in. When the 5th trumpet begins, it starts because there has been a war between the East and the West. The East is the Sassanid Empire fighting against the Byzantine Empire, always Rome, right? Rome and yeah, right. It used to be Parthia Empire, and now it's the Sassanid Empire fighting against the Byzantine Empire, right? And in 606, Phocas declared that John Paul II is the universal bishop, right? Oh no, he's not the corrector of heretics. That's Justinian. He's the universal. That's corrector of heretics is for here. This is the universal Sunday law, all right, versus national Sunday law. This is universal bishop. And then in the meantime, Muslim is watching. They're rising. Muhammad is rising, right? He's going to the cave. He's receiving his visions, right? And then he's watching. And he has the key of the bottomless pit, which is the knowledge that both the East and the West is going to continue to fight until they both totally exhausted each other, right? And then that's when he can go and start attacking them. and he's going to start becoming more powerful, all right? And he spreads his doctrine like smoke, right? It's going to cover the sun and the air, right? Right. And he realizes this, that they are conquering each other at the Battle of Nineveh. And that battle, actually, Chosroes is defeated by Heraclius, right? Heraclius, right? He actually sent letters to them, okay? Okay. All right, so July 27, 1299, what happened? The king torments. He can only torment, so he's actually restrained. Yeah, he's restrained during this time. He cannot kill, he's tormented, right? He can only torment. And he torments for 5 months, which is 150 years. And this power of Islam, in the beginning was their doctrine, but now it becomes locusts and scorpions. This is their manifestation now, because now they're actually attacking, causing hurt. They're attacking and hurting, but not killing. Tormenting. All right. Now, in 1449, Byzantine surrenders their supremacy, right? Because the brother died, and now he wants to rise up to power. Constantine the 13th wants to rise up, and he has to ask permission from Amurath, right? And then is when the 4 angels, the sultans of Baghdad, Iconium, Aleppo, and Damascus, are let loose, and they're gonna start killing, right? They're gonna attack and kill, all right? And then they're gonna attack, and Muhammad II, he rises in 1451. He is much more ambitious, and he eventually, with the Dardanelles cannon, topples the walls of Constantinople, right, in 1453, all right? Okay. All right. Now, the end of it is when Ottoman surrenders the supremacy to the 4 powers of the European 4 powers, right? So here they are now restrained. Here they were let loose. They were restrained here, let loose here, and then now they're restrained again here. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I have to make this so you can actually see there is something about these years here and these years right here. Okay? There's something they actually correspond to each other, these time periods, between these time periods. Because in October 22, 1844 is the end of the 6th trumpet, the beginning of the 7th trumpet. That is the great disappointment starts here. And this is the close of probation, right? This is the close of probation. Okay, what happened between these 2 years, this is actually 4 years, right? What happened in those years, right? I'll go through it. March 21, 1844 was Miller's disappointment. He thought that it was going to end on that day, the first day of the first month, but he was using an incorrect calculation using the vernal equinox, right? So he was disappointed. But that was also the day of the Edict of Toleration. So there's a wall that broke down here. In 1844, there's a wall that fell down here. There's also a wall that fell down here, right? And in April 19, 1844, is the first disappointment when they realized it's the first day of the first month. They thought that was Jesus going to come on that date. But actually, right, they calculated using the barley harvest, right? Okay. All right. July 21, 1844. Oh, this is forecasting. We haven't done this yet. Okay. If the first disappointment is on April 19th, 1844, that's when they realized they were at the time when they cannot do anything anymore. They're disappointed. They cannot go work anymore because it is the time of even, meaning it's 6 p.m. That time of even. Okay. If it's 6 p.m. and then they are supposed to come to the midnight, from 6 p.m. to midnight, how many hours is that? 6 hours. Prophetically, how long is 6 hours into literal days? 3 months. It's going to be 3 months, right? Because 1 hour is 15, right? So it's 3 months. It's 3 months. So from April to July is actually, so July 21, 1844 to the exact date is actually midnight. Because this is when they cannot work anymore. They're disappointed. They cannot work anymore. And this is midnight. What happened at midnight? No, not yet. Samuel Snow first gave his message at the Boston Tabernacle in Boston, but nobody understood it. Exactly at midnight. All right? He gave it exactly at midnight. And then he continued to preach it until there was an Exeter, New Hampshire camp meeting. And then he gave his lectures on August 14 and August 15, 1844. And then they realized, oh, we're actually in the midnight. You know, and the first day of the first month is actually April 19, 1844. So that way, we can actually now predict that Jesus is going to come on August 22, 1844. So that's how they figured out it was August 22, 1844 at the midnight prayer. No, Samuel Snow. Right.
So what message Samuel Snow have?
That Jesus is going to come in the clouds on August 22, 1844 to cleanse the earth, to cleanse the sanctuary. But actually it's wrong. It's not the earth. He's going to cleanse into the most holy place. He's going to go into the cloud and go to the Ancient of Days, to the most holy place and cleanse the sanctuary in heaven. The tearing time. Yeah, they were in the tearing time. Yeah, the tearing time is all the way from. I have to look at that. Yeah, right. Up until the midnight cry.
Yeah, until the midnight.
Until July 21, 1844, and then okay, all right. So now we see there's the Muslim is restrained. There's the midnight. There's the midnight cry. I got an angel there for a midnight cry. And there's going to be a closed door, right? This, you see this, right? That's the waymarks. That's the waymarks again. Those are the 4 waymarks. We have to know our waymarks. That's why it's like that. And that's 4 years.
4 years.
And when you see this, it says, wait, this 4 years has to happen here too. Okay, because this is also 4 years. This is also 4 years, and there's Islam now was restrained, now being loosed. And now there's a wall being fall down. There's also a wall that being fall down here, right? There's walls that fell down here. Okay? So there's going to be a midnight here and also a midnight cry here. Okay, what does that mean? That the history is being repeated here, right? This 4 years also correspond to this 4 years. Now, in the language of Pippinger and his group, this is a fractal. This is a fractal. This is a fractal of a bigger picture. The bigger picture is up here of our line. So what does it mean for us? Because in 1989 is when the East, Russia, was fighting the West. And in the meantime, Islam was waiting around until the West won right? But Islam has to be restrained by Soviet Russia, right? Right, at that time. And we know that, so 1989 lines up right here, okay? Okay, then what happens? 9/11, it lines up at the first wall, right? The beginning of when Islam is restrained, right? Islam is restrained through this time. Islam is restrained, right? At 9/11, right? Islam attacks, but is restrained. Yeah, it cannot continue to kill. It's just tormenting. Right now, is it tormenting? It's constantly tormenting, right? That's 9/11. Okay, and then, so we got to find out, okay, that's the end. The end is that the Sunday law, right? The Sunday law is when the, the big ingathering, but anyway, the close of probation, right? The close of probation will happen at the Sunday law. So this is our timelines, our waymarks. Okay, what about the middle parts? Where do the middle parts line up in? Well, we realize it that the midnight. No, okay. I had to do this very systematically because otherwise I'll get lost. All right. In 1838, at this time, literally in 1838, before August 11, 1840, 2 years before, Josiah Litch predicted it. Right. He made 3 predictions, and every prediction he becomes more decisive and more specific. 2 years ahead of time before Muslim is restrained. Yeah, Islam is restrained, okay? Ahead of time, he is doing that, right? This timeline corresponds to this timeline, right? Okay? And this timeline corresponds to our timeline up here, right? So what happens? The midnight, there's going to be a midnight. The midnight is going to come there's going to be a midnight, and there's going to be a midnight cry in our time, okay? So, this midnight lines up with 1449, right? And this lines up with this. And Josiah Litch predicted that Islam is going to be restrained here. And if this lines up with this, and this lines up with this, we are going to predict that Islam will attack at midnight. Right. But the thing is that right now they're restrained and they're going to be loosened, right? They're going to be loosened, right? They're restrained and they're going to be loosed, right? Yeah. And this is going to align perfectly with Balaam, right? And because Balaam, what is it? The second time.
Something has to be the catalyst.
Right.
Because if there's no catalyst,
But it doesn't happen here. We are going to be Josiah Litches here, because this lines up here, it lines up with here, and this lines up in our time right here.
but there's something like
Balaam, right? Balaam's time is actually when the ass actually hits the wall and bruises and hurts the legs, right? Right.
And he's between 2 walls.
Between 2 walls.
He cannot go anywhere.
Yeah. So he's stuck right there. So this is, because Josiah Litch predicted it, we're going to predict that is going to happen. And what happens? As we get closer and closer and closer, our understanding will become more and more. And it's going to be more refined. So, and this is actually going to happen before the midnight cry. Right. just before 10 days, we're gonna say it's gonna happen.
First 2 years and then 10.
Yeah, yeah.
But what understanding is that referring to for us?
For us, that actually Islam is gonna attack.
The knowledge of Islam.
Yeah, the knowledge that Islam is gonna attack, and that we have to have enough preparation for our oil.
So that's like what happened there.
Specifically because this is when our probation ends. Either we have enough oil or we don't have enough oil. Right there. Right? This is when our probation effectively ends. Here it is closed. But here, the probation, either we have enough oil here or we don't. Oh, okay. All right, right there. I can't go too high, huh? All right. Yeah, it doesn't show it there. Okay?
And the midnight will come. Look at that, 1838, and 2 years after that,
Yeah.
it's getting closer. So 2 years gap, but from 1840 to now it's only 10 days.
Yeah. So what is going to be? So you can see that those who have been studying prophecy will realize Islam's going to attack here, and it's going to get clearer and clearer and clearer. And the thing about it is, people are going to listen to it, and when it actually happens, everybody's going to wake up, right? Everybody's going to wake up. But the problem is that the foolish virgins wake up, and then what do they find? They find they have no oil. That's the scary thing, right? Okay. So, this is why nobody wants to study this. Is this important? Oh my.
What about the 4 years?
Oh, the 4 years basically connects between these two.
What does that apply?
No, there's nothing prophetic about this because this is after 1844. There's nothing, there's no more time prophecies.
Are you trying to say that it lines up with the next one?
Just the 4 years here, you realize that these 4 years are connected. All right. And this is actually a beginning of Islam, and there's a wall being fall down here. There's this Islam, and there's also a wall around at the end of this time. There's a wall that falls down here. Yeah. So you see the waymarks here, and you have to see the waymarks here too. This joins up with this, and this joins up with this. But these waymarks are there, and these waymarks are here, and these all line up. And because this lines up with this, it will line up with us too, meaning the history of Josiah Litch will be repeated at this timeline right there. And the history of Samuel Snow will line up right here. So we are going to see the National Sunday Law coming, and we're going to see it. We're going to predict it. It's going to be actually seen. We can actually see it. It's not going to come as a thief.
And that remark there in that midnight, and that 4 years, as explained also by Sina, it's if you magnify that.
Yeah.
That fractal, you magnify that.
Yeah.
So
It's
you
time
see
dilation.
more
You cannot
details.
open it.
Yeah.
So you see more details. You actually see a lot more details. So this is the timeline that connects with this one and can be extrapolated to our time. Right. That's how we see it. Yeah. How we can connect this with this and extrapolate this event right here to our time right there. Because this, in that Islam being restrained, Islam is going to be restrained and loosened, right? What's restrained here and loosed, right? Okay. All right.
You can't necessarily give the specific, but you have the logic and the understanding.
All right. So,
Nobody can really give specifics.
yeah, to actually, it does take a little time to actually see how this actually happens, but I have to do it very systematically because otherwise I'll get lost myself.
Unless you study this,
There's no way.
you will have no idea.
You have no idea, no clue.
So you have the logic and understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we need to have a paper and colored pencil.
We need to do it. So we can remember it, we should do it ourselves.
That's right.
I mean, I can do it.
Okay.
No, but
Yeah.
New paper law.
W-
Well, you can get it by segments,
Right.
break it down into segments.
We're gonna finish up a few more slides, okay? And we're gonna be done with the. I need to finish with the second wall. All right, Revelation 9, verse 20 and 21. The rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, okay, these plagues. This is the verse that people say, okay, the woes are plagues, right? Well, they are actually, in the Bible, it says they are also called plagues, but they are not the 7 plagues. They are not the plagues of Egypt, obviously, but they're not the 7 plagues.
Referring to the previous.
Right, okay. Yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, and neither can see nor hear nor walk. So those people who continue to worship idols, all right, and they don't repent of their murders and their sorceries and their exorcisms and their fornications and their thefts and their penances and their indulgences, they will continue doing what they do, right? Even after these woes, God designs that men shall make a note of his judgments and receive the lesson by thereby these signs to convey. But how slow are they to learn, and how blind to the indication of providence. The events that transpired under 6th trumpet constituted the second woe, right? Yet the judgment had no improvement in the manners and morals of men. Those who escaped them learned nothing by their manifestation in the earth. The worship of devils, demons, and dead men deified, and the idols of gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood may find a fulfillment in the saint worship and the image worship of the Roman Catholic Church, while of murderers, sorceries, pretended miracles through the agency of departed saints, fornications and thefts in countries where the Roman religion has prevailed, there had been no lack. Right?
1897.
Yeah,
Which those lessons were for the apostate church to begin with.
right.
And
But
then
it's
we get
also
the
gonna
Bible
be,
still in that one.
right. But for us, it's gonna be applying for us too, because there's churches there have become apostate, and they continue, and in their apostasy, they don't see what's going on
Yeah.
because they don't think it's important.
Yeah, because she's apostate throughout history.
So in great controversy, Charles V was bent on crushing the Reformation. But as often as he raised his hand to strike, he had been forced to turn aside the blow. Again and again, at the crucial moment, again and again, at the crucial moment, the armies of the Turk appeared on the frontier, right? This is the Holy Roman Empire. This is the Charles V Empire right here. But constantly from the Ottoman Empire, they were attacked from the east, right? The east wind. The armies of the Turk appeared on the frontier. Or the King of France would also kind of like rebel. Or even the Pope himself made war upon him. Thus, amid the strife and tumult of nations, the Reformation had been left to strengthen and extend. The Reformation needed the attack of the armies of Islam.
So right now we need reformation too.
Right. We need to get out of our Laodicean condition. We need a reformation, and we need to perfect the character of Christ in us, so that we can be sealed. But to buy time, Islam is attacking, right? Just like at that time.
So that's a gift.
All right. GC 2:11. But in the moment of his apparent triumph, the emperor was smitten with defeat. He was forced at last to grant toleration to the doctrines which it had been the ambition of his life to destroy. He saw his armies wasted by battle, his treasuries drained, many kingdoms threatened by revolt, while everywhere the faith he had endeavored to suppress was extended. Charles V had been battling against omnipotent power. God had said, "Let there be light," but the emperor had sought to keep the darkness unbroken. Worn out with a long struggle, he abdicated the throne and buried himself in a cloister.
He became a monk.
Yeah. So Charles V was constantly harassed by Islam, and eventually he gave up. All right. The opposition is the lot of all whom God employs to present truth, especially applicable to their time. There was a present truth in the days of Luther. There is a present truth for the church today. What does this mean? The line of Luther aligns with our line. So someday, you remember somebody did the line of Luther? Oh, it's exactly the same. You will see all the prophecies and the waymarks aligned together with the lines, right? But truth is no more desired by the majority today than it was by papists who opposed Luther. Wow. Nobody wants to know the truth. Does anybody want to study all this, the fifth and sixth trumpet? Those who present the truth for this time should not expect to be received with greater favor that were earlier reformers. You think people are going to love this message? You're going to come here and study this stuff with us?
Forget about it.
I shared with my boss about the posters that I was getting, that I ordered, and I was excited about. And I said a few comments about them, and he goes, "That's nice."
It's going to be the same story, Kathy.
Yeah.
Same story right there.
It is.
The great controversy between truth and error, between Christ and Satan, is to increase to the close of this world's history. All right. Let them be ashamed that persecute me, but let not me be ashamed. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them the day of evil and destroy them with double destruction. Double destruction, why? Because they persecuted the saints in the old days, and they're going to persecute again. That's why they're going to get double destruction. Jeremiah 17:18. Matthew 5:12. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. Like Martin Luther was persecuted. And when we're going to bring this gospel, these studies, and all these, the truths, and we are going to actually make bold predictions of what is going to happen. People are going to persecute you. And when it actually happens, wow, then they said, wow, there must be some truth to it. Unfortunately, when that actually happens, it's the midnight cry. And the time is too late. All right? So that's the end of the second woe. Yeah. Oh, it's actually on the internet now. Yeah, so and that is the more sure word of prophecy. Yeah, actually it's over here. You can see it on the... Yeah, I didn't. It doesn't show up on this presentation. But anyway, continuation is actually, continuation would be the seventh trumpet. Yeah. But the seventh trumpet, when you understand that, as connected, when you read that, it's connected with what? Yeah, that's connected with France, because that's Revelation 11, right? We've done that. Yeah, we've done this with multiple. Yeah, we've done this with multiple presentations in the past, so it would not be actually that difficult to go through the third woe. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, and we will stop our recording.